everybody, welcome. I'm going to do a tarot reading that's going to be happening from this Los Angeles devastated by this whole entire fire situation. I'm going to say something. I'm going to predict something what was happening. Um, there was a time that I think during the time about what was happening, I think that there was basically someone who basically probably, I don't know, maybe they were smoking or something like this. They were smoking, and all of a sudden they probably didn't even like put out their cigarette, whatever, and then all of a sudden it actually basically turned into a brush fire, and then all of a sudden we have a wildfire at the Los Angeles, and people are losing their homes, and it is devastating about doing that because I already predict what's happening because I think the news is not going to say that yet until it's basically unknown until they tell you what's happening. But the thing is, about my prediction, I think it was probably it could be arson or it could be something else that's very irrelevant, you know. But I'm just gonna say it. It's very devastating for a lot of LA folks, as in Los Angeles, California folks who are in United States of America, right? And I know it's kind of very unwise to say this because whenever you're losing your home, or it's very devastating for a lot of people, and you know what I can think of about what that situation is between a cigarette towards a brush fire that turns into a wildfire and then basically burns into a lot of houses into demolishment. It's very bad. you know and I'm not saying this to all my viewers who are out there, but it is very interesting about what was happening, right? It's very uncruel and very unrealistic and how it is, but what you can do, right? You can't even think about what was happening, right? It's like you have to think about the odds of the ends and the whole entire everything. You know, um, it's the worst case of a scenario here, and it's based on that. So, what I'm going to do about this home tarot reading that you need to all enjoy. This is very interesting on how you can understand what was happening through my own interpretations, my own predictions about what was happening, because this is like a 50-50 shot where there is a chance, and what I'm saying about taking a chance on this situation, I think it is going to be very uh, boosting with a lot of views in this video that I'm doing, and my prediction could be accurate. It could be someone who basically was being unkind, and it could be human caused, and it could be a cigarette that just go into some kind of bushes and then started a fire, and then it basically kaboom. We have a whole entire wildfire situation, and that's my prediction, and I think it was correct. Only I don't know if it was correct, but if it was, you get the whole entire picture. Because the point being is that what I'm going to say is I have a pendulum, and I'll say the answer if I was correct on this, and I will do that in at the end of this video. But the point being is that this is a very interesting about how it is, because this is a very understanding way about how you can understand that. Whatever happens, this is the way how it turns out. This is the way of how you can understand the way of how you can do that. It's this is how it is, because if you know what's going on, you know that how it is, right? This is the way it happens. And so when we'll be doing this tarot reading, I'm going to say what was happening from this devastation, and this is how it is, right? Because this wasn't happening not that long ago, and they still process about how the news and everybody else is still processing how much the damage is and everything else. And I think what I'm going to be doing with this tarot reading, I want to see what's happening in this interesting way based on how it was, because this is the way it kind of turns out, right? And I think my own self that whenever things go into that perspective, it's like, well, am I doing this? This is the way of how you can see it, and you have to think about, well, this is this is the way it goes, this is the way it looks, and this is just the way it seems to be. And I'll do it in a whole entire tarot reading, and this is how it is. So here we go. So this whole entire reading that I'm going to tell you all is that the Six of Cups does represent the past. It does represent Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. Eight of Swords, it does represent anxiety. It does represent Gemini, Leo, Aquarius. The Star is upright. There's inspiration. There might be a miracle that will come true. The Two of Wands, there's no planning. Nine of Pentacles, there was something that was happening. Ten of Wands reversed, there's no burdens, not yet. But in this whole entire format, we understand it's basically how it was, right? It was very, I'm not going to say lethargic. I don't know what that word means, but you know what I'm saying. It was very devastating, So I'm going to try to figure out who was doing this, and I will be reading the Enchanted Map at the end of the video as well, so you will see it eventually. But this is the way it kind of goes, because I need to figure out what's happening in this whole entire situation, and this is the way it kind of goes. So I'll be doing a 3-card reading because I want to figure out, and this is the way it kind of happens. So I'm going to clarify the Star, the Knight of Pentacles, and the Ten of Wands. I want to see who was doing this. So we have the World that's reversed, we have the 9 of Coins reversed, we have the 3 of Coins reversed. Yeah, see, there was devastation because you're losing money. That's how it is. The world is, there was something that was in completion, like, what was the issue, what was going on. That's how it seems to be. Let me clarify more. The Emperor reversed, followed by the 6 of Wands reversed, followed by the Knight of Cups is upright. Yeah, so it does represent Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer, but we are talking about the LA fire situation. It does represent Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer, whoever the element was. And it could be a man situation. It could be a masculine man that was basically setting the blaze on fire. Maybe he was doing that. Maybe he was being naive or something like that. And the Emperor reversed because he has no structure, So when things go out of place or out of hand, that's how it was. It's very interesting on how it was, and you think that, well, I got this, I know what to do, but this is just how it seems to be. It's like, why would you lose a house? Why would you lose the devastation? This is the way it goes. This is the why it seems to be, and that's what it seems to be. Now I'm going to clarify the Two of Wands and the Six of Cups and the Eight of Swords here. So the Five of Swords is upright, followed by the Knight of Coins is upright, followed by the 10 of Coins reversed, followed by the 7 of Cups reversed, followed by the 6 of Coins reversed, followed by the Hermit is upright. Yeah, see, it does represent a solitude. It does represent that. The Five of Swords represents there's conflict. So there was conflict, and maybe, let's say, you're having conflict, and all of a sudden you have that cigarette, and all of a sudden you accidentally throw it out of the window, out of your vehicle or something, and then it was turned into a bushfire, and then it turned into the whole entire shebang of this whole entire this wildfire that was happening, it wasn't so good, right? So now you have to look at the Hermit card that was in solitude. You have solitude because everyone needs solitude in their whole entire life, you know. It is very interesting of how it was. This is like a tarot reading for God's sakes, you know, and it's very simple that things will go into place as it goes, right? Like because time is the essence, and this is the way of how it goes. Where could be intense. It could be maybe arson. It could be maybe a cigarette. But there's always these things, and whatever happens to this whole entire Los Angeles, California, devastation, but the wildfires and stuff, and who did it. That's why I'm doing this whole entire tarot card reading for you, because it could make sense. It could make sense about I'm doing this because before the news was going to say it, so this is why it seems to be. This is why it kind of happens. It's, you can't always do something and say, well, I got this done. It doesn't, right? It doesn't work that way, because when you have the Five of Swords, you have basically conflict. You're not getting along. You're having fights. You're trying to save your house from a fire, whatever it is, and you don't know what to do, right? You don't, right? So you have to think that when you have the Emperor, you have no structure. Your structure is gone, and that's how it is, right? So you have to believe on saying, well, is this a good way or a bad way? It isn't a good way. It's a bad way, right? It's a bad decision, And you need to face your own facts, your own abilities from that right wrong perspective. It's the way of how you can try to grasp your own situations. You have to think before you act. Think about how you can put things into writing. Put things into, how you can do it, right? That's why when I'm doing this tarot reading, it's like a puzzle. You put everything back together, right? You put as it goes along, just like writing a story. You go from the start, middle, and end, So that's what it seems to be. Because when you look at this, you think, okay, well, does it make sense? Does it make that priority sense? And say, well, does it make sense? You tell me in the description box below if you want. Leave a comment if you want. But you know what I'm saying, right? This is a way of an opportunity. This is why it was very affecting about what was happening through this devastating of this home entire fire situation, and it just it affects a lot of people, and it does, that's why this home entire reading does make sense. So let me try to see what's happening through this whole entire reading. So let me try to do from the Hermit card, from the Solitude, all the way to the Nine of Pentacles. So I'm going to, so the Three of Pentacles is upright, followed by the King of Pentacles reversed, followed by the Six of Cups reversed, followed by the Six of Swords is upright. So there's movement here. Everything is just gone out, how it is. The Three of Pentacles, there is excitement. Okay, so that's how it is. You're basically, you could be dealing with an Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus, but I'm talking about the LA fire here. This is what it seems to be, where you have the Three of Pentacles and you're talking about what you're going to do next, and you have to see what was happening in that devastation, It's the way of how you can understand, the way of how you can accept on how things are. You have to do what you need to do, this is the way it happens, because majority is the way it goes. Majority is the key, and you have to find what was happening in this whole entire reading, right? this is why it happens, you know, because when you have devastation, you have chaos, you have, everything that you can think of, all of the above, you know, and it is true. It is true about how it is because you have to think that there are times where you need to prove yourself worthy to get the better of you, because that's what it seems to be. Because that's what it is. So let me see what's happening. So we know it was the Knight of Cups that represents Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. Excuse me about that. Excuse me as well. So this is how it seems to be. So now I'm going to clarify the Three of Pentacles all the way down to the Knight of Cups. The Chariot is upright, followed by the Emperor reversed, followed by the Sun reversed, yes, and the Temperance is upright. So the Temperance does represent healing. The Chariot is basically there's progress here, right? Everything has progress. The Emperor reversed, there's no structure, right? Because it's all devastated, right? And then the Sun card that represents Leo, but when it's reversed, it's negative. So you are in negativity, right? And this whole entire event that was happening, it doesn't work so well. It's devastating, right? It is, right? Because when you look at the Temperance, when you look at the Chariot, these two cards here, the Temperance does represent healing. Okay, that's good. And then you have the Chariot that represents progress, right? And that's how it is, where you need to think about how you can do it in no time flat. This is the way it goes, where you have to put yourself together, put things into that perspective where, okay, well, this is the way it happens, right? And that wildfire, like, it came as soon as possible. As soon as that news hits from all over the whole entire globe, as the whole entire world, it basically, affects everybody, right? It does affect everybody, right? So it does. And there's an opportunity there's a persuasion, right? And in that persuasion, you need to know the key elements. You have to look at what you're going to be doing. You have to think about the positive, not the negative. You need to believe that you can do it as long as it needs to, And if you get angry at that one individual, and let's say that individual that knows everything, and he basically, had a cigarette and basically probably throwed, his cigarette and into the, bushes, all of a sudden that does create the whole entire fiasco of, confetti of fire, I'm not trying to laugh here, but you know what I mean, what I'm saying. So it is very devastating about what was happening through this wave, right? It does, and it does. So you have to think about what was happening in that perspective. It's the way of how you can look at it from a different angle, a different way, a different observation, This is why it seems to be. This is why it kind of is that, because you need to approve yourself and say, well, am I doing this right? Am I doing this perfectly? That's how it seems to be. Because you have to look and say, well, am I done here? No, you're not. You have to keep processing what was happening, right? Everything has a process for that reason. That's how it seems to be. Because you have to look at it, right? You have to look and say, okay, well, this is an opportunity to grasp here and to learn and to regulate your own, emotions and how it kind of affects you. That's what it seems to be. So what's in the middle of this situation here? So the Tower is upright, followed by the Star is upright, followed by the Lover is upright. Yeah, see, there's decisions here during this time of this whole entire devastation, the sun, the star represents inspiration. There's gonna be inspiration that's gonna show up. The tower has, so everything is tumbling down. That's what it is, right? And that's what it is. When you have the tower, everything is tumbling down, right? Everything's crashing. Everything is transformation, and it's not very good, right? It's like, why is that opportunity? Why? And you have to figure out what the 5 W's is: who, what, where, when, why. And you have to know about that, because you have to think about, okay, well, this is not your tea in your coffee situation. It's not your, basically your cup of coffee, or your whatever it is. You have to think that, okay, well, this is an opportunity to learn, and in that process you need to figure out who was doing it, and this is the why it was. So let me figure out what this tower is. The chariot is upright, followed by the strength card is upright. So when you have the strength that does represent Leo as a fire sign, you have strength. The chariot is upright because you have progress, and that's how it is, right? So you have progress here, progress here. So there are two progresses here. You have a star here, right? And then basically you will have a star as well. But then you have the temperance is upright, does represent healing. Everyone is healing from their devastation, what was happening through this whole entire fiasco, this confetti fire. It is true to be said, because in one way or another, it's not good, and it's the worst case scenario, right? You have to think to yourself, it's like, well, this is an opportunity. This is the way of how I can stretch this, and it does, because you think about, well, this is an opportunity to learn and do what it seems to be. But that's why I'm talking about the LA fire situation, because this is an opportunity to learn. This is the way of how it goes, right? And what's in the middle of this tower situation? The justice reverse, there's no action. Wheel of Fortune reverse, yeah, see, you're having bad luck. Everything is going to be having bad luck, right? Because that's what it is. You're trying to have strength. You're trying to, stay positive, but you're not staying positive. You're not. What's up with this Wheel of Fortune? The Hermit reverse. So there's no solitude, no, right? But then the Moon reversed. But then the Magician is upright. There's a skill, like everyone has skill. The High Priestess, because you're using your inner voice situation. The Empress is upright. There's nourishment. The Fool is upright. Yeah, see, now the Fool is, there's change. So we know for a fact there's a Fool here. Someone basically messed up. Somebody actually did something and saying, well, this is suspicious. This is the way it was, right? And this is not a nitty-gritty situation. It's not. But based on that theory, it's not going to end well, So I'm going to see what one of the cards is. And let's see. The Seven of Cups is upright. So there is a delusion here. And it does represent Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. So it does represent that. Now, everyone has a deja vu. This is like almost a deja vu moment. And you say, okay, well, this is the way it happens. The way it goes, you have to process your emotions, right? You have to process what is going on, And you have to think, okay, well, this is an opportunity to learn where, okay, why would that person basically throw their cigarette out of the window from a moving vehicle? Maybe that could work. And probably, there's a bushfire, and let's say the cigarette went, and all of a sudden, kaboom, everything is on fire, and someone was acting to be a fool, be foolish, and it could caused by arson, or it could be caused by mankind, That's the way it goes. But for instance, it's the opportunity to understand what was happening in this situation. So this is what was happening. So tell me something that's the opposite of the Seven of Cups here. The Magician is upright, followed by the Star reversed, followed by the Temperance reversed. Yeah, see, there's no healing, there's no inspiration, but then there's skill. That was it. What's upside? The Four of Coins reversed, the Empress reversed, the Queen of Cups is upright. So it does represent Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. So there could be a fire sign that was involved with a water sign, so it could be Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. It could be also Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, whatever it would be, right? So we have two different elements here. Now this is the way it was. Now I'm going to figure out who was in the middle, who was in this situation here. So let me see. I'm kind of getting somewhere in this whole tarot reading. How this LA situation was. Right, so I'm going to clarify. I'm going to clarify this Magician. Work my way to the left side here. So the Temperance reversed, followed by the Eight of Cups reversed, followed by the Seven of Pentacles upright. Yeah, so there's vision here. It could represent your career, but there's vision, right? So I'm like basically visioning about this whole entire process, what was going on, The Temperance reverse, there's no healing, not yet, but give it time. Now you have to think, okay, well, this is the way it was. Now the Temperance, I'm going to clarify that between the Queen of Cups. The Eight of Wands is upright, followed by the Page of Wands is upright. So there could be a fire sign. So it does represent Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. The Eight of Wands does represent speed. Everything is going to speed up. The news is going to catch on. Everything else is going to be all relevant of how it is, right? That's what it was. Because now you understand the way of how this reading was going. It's like, okay, well, I talked about this, I talked about that. And there is a way of controlling your own emotions here. You have to believe in your own miracles. Miracles will happen in a lickety split, That's what happens. Because you have to think about, okay, well, this is a way of how I can understand. This is the way kind of how it seems to be, right? Because when you look at it, okay, well, does it make sense? It does. But give it time. Give it time where you can process of how you can, rebuild and do things, get back where things were, So that's why I'm talking about this LA fire situation, because, this is why it was, right? So it's like, this is the way it was. So now I'm going to clarify in the middle between the Eight of Wands here. The Fool is reversed, okay? Followed by the Five of Swords is upright. Followed by the Death card represents Scorpio. But it does represent endings here. Everything is ending. Everything is. The Five of Swords does represent, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, but it does represent conflict. Now you're going back to conflict, okay? Now you're saying, okay, well, I'm having conflict, I don't know what to do, I have endings, and this is what it was. So we have a tense moment about between the two elements that I was trying to describe you. One is the water sign, one is a fire sign. There are two different elements, okay? One could be Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, or one could be Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. As who was being the fool, who was being, the way how it was, right? Because when I clarified this Fool card here, it was reversed, means that there's no changes, right? But there was a Fool that was basically, there's a change here, right? Someone actually messed up. And it was, you know? And they did it because they didn't want to have nothing to do about it. But in that case, this whole entire reading, it needs to be, how it was, right? So now I'm going to clarify with one of these cards that I'm going to say. So let me see. Let me see who's on the left side, who's on the right side. So the eagle Archangel is a false sense of entrapment, being overly focused on material things, negative or fear-based thoughts. Exactly. So there was some type of ego in this situation, a false sense of entrapment. It could be lots of things that was happening. You're trying to focus on material things. You're focusing about getting items back and put things into storage and everything else. That's what it seems to be. So just clarify that. And it was the Eight of Earth. Skilled work is rewarded. Learning all there is to know about topic. Going back to school. So I just talk about where it was devastation and it was that where you're losing your home, you're losing things, you're losing how it was. It wasn't very, tasteful. It wasn't very that nitty-gritty situation. It's not. But the point being is that we have an earth sign here. So it could be Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus, or it could be Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, or it could be Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. One of them is the individuals who basically did this whole entire devastation. It was probably that. So let me clarify that ego card. The Eight of Water is a desire to move on, the search for something more meaningful, spiritual and emotional growth. Yeah, so everyone is having emotional growth, and everyone's being all emotional and being sad and everything else, how the devastation was. And this does represent Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. So we have basically all the information I'm telling you. And basically it wasn't that very appealing, and that's how it was. Now, between this Five of Swords and this Death card, I'm going to clarify that because I'm going to see what's happening between this. And Five of Cups does represent grief. It does represent that. So it does represent grief. It does represent Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. Okay? So now we know the whole entire basic. There was probably some type of water sign that was doing this. It could be Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio. Whoever it is will get this whole entire reading. And then the Eight of Earth does represent Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus. So whoever was doing this was basically, it wasn't very nicely. It wasn't very interesting. It could be more than one person. And everyone has a grief process right now because, if one false move hits, everything is going to be kaboom, and it is, right? So it's like, it is very devastating on how it was and how it represents, because that's what it seems to be, I'm going to clarify how it is more. So we're almost done with this whole entire reading. Because I'm going to clarify the Five of Cups. So let let me clarify. So temperance is upright, there's healing. The Knight of Wands reversed, there's no immaturity. Oh my. The Seven of Cups represents the delusion. I just said that, right? So there was like basically deja vu, whatever it was. The Knight of Wands reversed, there's no immaturity. Someone wasn't being immature. It could be that maybe someone was being immature or someone wasn't being immature. There was something that was happening with that. The temperance represents healing. Everybody's healing, and it's the worst case scenario. That's what it was. So we have the Seven of Wands is upright, there's silence. The Hermit is upright, there's solitude. The Nine of Swords is upright, there's trauma. Yes, it is trauma. The Hermit does represent solitude, but this is the way it was. It was a cause and effect of emotions. It was very devastating. This is the way it was. The Knight of Wands reversed. I want to clarify that card, please. The Knight of Cups reversed. There's no romance. So this wasn't love. This was bad. But then you have the Ten of Swords upright there because there is conclusions. So you have all these conclusions, and you think, well, this is the way it goes. This is like how it was an opportunity. This is the way of how it seemed to be, right? And you think about, well, doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make that reality sense, And you have to think about, this is the way how it was, and this is the way it seemed to be. So I'm going to clarify that the Ten of Swords. So you have the Two of Wands is upright, followed by the Three of Wands is upright, followed by the Ten of Swords is upright. Yeah, I just clarified that card. There's conclusions. Three of Wands, there's communication. Two of Wands, you're planning on something. That's what it was during this situation. The Ten of Wands reversed. The Hierophant reversed. The Four of Wands is upright. There's going to be celebration. There will be Nine of Swords reversed. Seven of Wands reversed. The Ace of Swords is upright. So there's going to be an understanding here. There's going to be how it was. Ten of Cups is upright because you want everything that's going to be happening. The Queen of Swords reversed. The King of Swords reversed. So there's no knowledge. But the Queen of Wands is upright. So it does represent Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. So there could be a feminine. There could be a masculine situation. Masculine could be Pisces or Cancer or Scorpio as the man. The woman was the feminine as the woman. She could be being Leo, Aries, or Sagittarius. So these two aren't very good at communicating. They will communicate, but from the LA fire situation, it's basically devastating, and this is the way it was because you have to read between the lines, and when you have a cigarette and you throw it away, you should crush it, or anything like that. But when you throw it away out the window, and it goes into the bushes, and then starts to spark, and the whole entire fiasco of the fire, that would be very intense. And it's basically a fiasco, confetti of fire in Los Angeles, in the United States of America. It's basically devastation, and now when you look at the Ten of Swords that I'm going to tell you all, basically that represents conclusions. You're going to have all these conclusions. You're going to figure out who was doing this, who was at fault, and this reading that I'm doing was making sense. It does, because that's what it was. That's what it was seemed to be. That it was an opportunity to, this wasn't love. Wasn't how it was. It was conflict. It was endings. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very nicely, and I think someone was acting to be unkind, that's what it was. because now you have to understand that the way of how you can do it, that's what it needs to be, right? So this is why it happens. Now, I'm going to read you the Enchanted Map, and then I'm going to ask the question to my pendulum. And my pendulum, well, it will focus on my invisible energy, but I won't actually do it as like it's gonna go use my fingers and it's gonna start to go by me. No, it's gonna do it by itself. So that's very the trick of how this, like, I'm not being a magician to do magic. No, I'm just letting you know what was happening in this situation. As if I'm right, I'm right, without the news knowing it. You know what I'm saying, right? So let me read you what's happening in this reading, because this is just how it was. So this was interesting. The dry desert for number 31. Ah, interesting about that card, eh? Let me read you that card. Right, so it says, alright, it says here, so number 31, it says dry desert, it says dig deep for inspiration and truth. Now is the time to become resilient and adaptable. Okay, here we go. That's right, it says, is your life presenting you with opportunities that seem to yield nothing? Have your ideas dried up? Does it feel like you are on an endless journey through a dry, hot, lifeless desert? This card reminds you that there are times when you are meant to become resilient as you journey through harsher circumstances. You're being required to conserve your energy until, after consistent effort, you reach the oasis you're searching for. Consider the creatures that live in these conditions. They have adapted to thrive in spite of the outer environment. In a desert, water essential for life can be found deep underground. Go deep within yourself now. Find your truth there. Let spirit sustain you while you locate the real source. Whatever it is you're asking about will not be found in the conditions you are in until you move past the surface of things and choose to do the real work and discover the answers deep within you. This may not seem like the most productive time, but looks are deceiving. This is a most important place to find what's really right for you. So basically that's what it seems to be, where you're on this journey and you don't know what to do, right? And that's how it seems to be. That's why it was saying that when I was reading earlier, like, basically it was whatever it is you're asking about will not be found in the conditions you are in until you move past the surface of things and choose to do the real work and discover the answers deep within you. So it reminds me that when I'm doing this whole entire prediction, what the heck was happening, it wasn't very lightly to say it, but it's basically how it was, because in that situations it's like this is the way it was, and this is how an opportunity that goes along. You have opportunities to understand both the right and wrong perspective. It's, you know this is why I think in my own experience about what was happening, and I know that the news hasn't said anything yet, but it will, because I think that in my own prediction, that there is going to be um, they're going to say something, and they are going to say that there was somebody that was, probably light a cigarette and probably put it into a bushfire, and then it started to do that. Like I think in my own mind it was like, spitbot, and I could be right. I could be wrong, but I could be right, and I'm not making this up. I am not making it up. But the point being is that this is the way it was. This is why it was. Because, there is a card that I'm going to say here. Empathy. I'm open to seeing both sides of a situation. That's what it was. Because when you have empathy, you're seeing both sides of a situation here. Like, I think it was basically, it could be arson, or it could be basically someone's having a fight. Maybe someone probably dropped their cigarette on the ground, and maybe it probably, poof, it started the fire. I don't know. Or it could be like where somebody was driving along, and then they were done with their smoking, and then all of a sudden they throw it out of the window, and all of a sudden it started to be a bushfire, and then it started into a whole entire process of a wildfire, and basically it's not good, right? So that's why I think they're both sides of a situation, right? It could be the masculine as the man who was at fault, and basically he was doing it, just to get attention. Maybe he didn't like whatever happens, but I think it was very interesting with that. And he could be dealing with another, he could be, that's how it was, that's what it was in that situation, Now, I'm going to ask a question to a pendulum, and I'm going to ask if what was happening to the LA situation. So let me ask a very good question. Are we ready? Okay, I'm not gonna do any magic for you. That's just a joke there. But this is the way it goes. So here we go. Let me ask a very good question. Alright, it says, do you think that it was somebody that basically had a cigarette, and all of a sudden it started the bushfire in LA? The answer is no. Do you think that someone was doing it for arson? The answer is yes. So I'm going to say correctly, someone did probably arson, and maybe someone basically did arson against one of the buildings, or something that was happening in a situation that was probably in LA, something like that. And I think that was probably it. So I think somebody that was probably the masculine, who was, I'll say maybe Aries, I think, and maybe he was probably frustrated, and I think that he basically did arson, and he probably just was a whole entire berserk of how it was, and I think that was basically bad it was. So I think it was, maybe the buildings were on fire, maybe it was probably caused that, and I think it was the worst case scenario. So before I let you go, pay attention about this whole entire reading. I hope that this is a very intense reading. It's very intense, and I think that the best thing that you all can do is just to, you know, just remember that what I just read for you about the dry desert and everything else. I think that the dry desert in this whole entire picture, and if you see it correctly, if you see it, it it kind of represents. I think that California, Los Angeles, I think it's just a desert area, and I think that it must be all desert, and you know, basically, I don't know if it was true, but I think it's basically a desert kind of landscape, I think, and basically, I think that it basically caused that, and I think that's how it was. So, I think I think California didn't get very much water or anything like that, and I think someone did something that was stupidity, and that's how it was. So I hope you all like this video. Please give it a like, please give it a comment, and I hope that you enjoy it, and this is what it seems to be. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now. Really. Bye.